So I'm going to present about bacterial septicemia in sickle cell. I'll do the introduction, epidemiology, and etiology. So introduction, sickle cell is a disease, is a collective term used for a group of genetic disorders in which the hemoglobin is structurally abnormal. The underlying abnormality is a single nucleotide substitution in the gene for beta globin in the chromosome 11, thus replacing the glutamic for valine. So there are a number, or there are like 7 types of sickle cell disease. I'm going to just mention some of them, but the most common one is the HBSS, which is more common in East Africa. So we have the HBSS, we have the HB beta thalassemia, we have the HBC, we have the HBE, we have the HBS plus the fetal HB, and then we have the others that are HBD, Los Angeles, and the G, Philadelphia HB, and the Arab type. So I'm going to concentrate on the HBSS, which is common in East Africa. As I have said, data indicates that HBSS disease is the dominant type and is the most common in East Africa. Others like HBC are prevalent in about 20% in a study that was done in Ghana and Burkina Faso, and 3 to 5% in a study that was done in Nigeria. That is according to Brown et al. 2017. So what is bacterial sepsis? Bacterial sepsis refers to asymptomatic bacteremia with or without organ dysfunction. Then sepsis is commonly defined as presence of an infection in conjunction to a systemic inflammatory response syndrome. And severe sepsis is sepsis complicated with an organ dysfunction. Etiology. Overwhelming infection that is a major cause of morbidity and death. The most common organisms are the encapsulated bacterial, and then we have the Salmonella species and Plasmodium falciparum. That is more common in the malaria endemic areas. Common bacterial infections include ruminant meningitis and septicemia. That is more common in the HBSS. So the common organisms that are found in developing countries, the Staph aureus and the Klebsiella, along with the Salmonella. In the developed countries, they say the most common organisms are the Strep pneumoniae and H. influenza and the non-typhoid Salmonella. In children less than 5 years are at great risk of meningitis and septicemia. And Salmonella osteomyelitis is probably the most common in all age groups. Pneumococcal and Salmonella are the most common frequently isolated bacteria. 70% of septicemia and meningitis are common among the under 5 with sickle cell disease, and the most common organism is Strep pneumoniae that is found in developed countries, and 70% are hematogenous osteomyelitis. In sickle cell disease is the most common organism is the Salmonella. That is in the developing countries. So in the developed countries we have the Strep pneumoniae, and in the developing countries we have the Salmonella. Sickle cell is present mostly in blacks and is mostly found around the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. In several African states, prevalence of sickle cell trait is high as about 30%, and it has no sex predilection. In Uganda, a study that was done by Prof. Ndezi et al. In 2016 showed that they thought that 20% of children are born every year with sickle cell disease, and from that surveillance that was done in 2014-2015, 13% had sickle cell trait and 0.7% had the sickle cell disease. And the most common one was the HBSS. Globally, about 5% of the population carries the gene responsible for hemoglobinopathies. Yearly, 300,000 infants are born with major hemoglobin disorders, and more than 200 cases have sickle cell anemia. 200,000 cases have sickle cell anemia in Africa. In Nigeria, 24% carry the mutant gene, and the prevalence of sickle cell anemia is about 20 per 1,000 live births. That's according to WHO in 2009. The incidence of bacteremia in children less than 3 years of age was approximately 8 events per 100 patient years among the homogeneous subjects. That's the ones who have HBSS. A study that was done in Congo, it showed that strep pneumoniae was the most frequent isolated bacteria in patients with HBSS, and this was not different from that study that was a previous study that was done in Nigeria that showed also strep pneumoniae. But a study that was done in Kenya in 2009 showed the prevalence of strep pneumoniae among those with sickle-cell anemia at 41%, and H influenza was at 18%. That was according to a study that was done by William et al. A recent study that was done in Abadan, Nigeria, showed 95.7% of those with HBSS and 4.3% of those with HBC had bacterial, had bacteremia of about 13%. 62.5% had gram-negative bacteria, 25% had Klebsiella, and 25% also had staph pneumoniae, with the 6% having strep pneumoniae. So we can also see there's a varying etiology of the bacteria that you will culture at different areas or different countries. The study that was done in 2006 by Kizito et al., it showed that was in Uganda. It showed that 28% of patients had bacteremia, and the culture that was done showed that 60% had staph aureus and 19% had H influenza, with only 6% having strep pneumoniae. My question is, do you still need Pen-V in patients with sickle-cell anemia in Uganda? I've given you the epidemiology. Do you still need Pen-V in patients with sickle-cell anemia in Uganda? Someone can do a study and let us know. Thank you.